What's up, everybody? How's it going? Today, I'm going to talk about the Ableton Push user mode. Ableton designed the Ableton Push to pretty much do anything that you could possibly want to do, at least live performance-wise, with the already existing interface between Push 1 or Push 2. But they also decided to put in this user mode, and the reason that the user mode exists is that a lot of players want to have a customizable interface for some of the extra functions that they want the push to do, or potentially they want to redesign the way that the push works to make it work for their workflow on stage or in the studio. So what I have done throughout the past couple years is master this process of making user mode animations, and perhaps the best way to show you what I'm talking about is just to show you what they are. So I'm just going to launch these. I've made these 10 MIDI clips here that are going to control Ableton's user mode and create these cool animations that are synced to beats. So check it out. And you'll notice these animations, they're following the beat. So pretty sweet. The reason that I've created these is a couple reasons, but I think the main one is that the people that have watched my show and some of the other shows I've seen, they really like to watch the interplay between the performer and the controller. And in this situation, I've just basically figured out a kind of stylistic way to display my controls so that I know where my controls are in user mode and still give people kind of a nice little like beat synced show. So this animation, Diamond Ring, is the one that I started with, and I'll show you what it does. Here's another one. And so what I've done is I've taken just the 8x8 middle part of the grid and isolated it, and it has no animations going on inside of it. That's because what I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to make it so I knew that only within this area there were going to be controls that I would use inside of user mode. None of these other controls, at least at that point, had any control mapped to them. So the way that you can do this, and what's cool about this is if you click on the MIDI mapper, I put some of these, I put some effects in the master bus just for ease of use, but I'm focusing on just these middle grid notes, okay? And so I can click on one and just map these 1, 2, and 3. And now you'll notice in user mode, when I hit these buttons, they turn red. And when they're red, that means that those effects are on. When they're off, obviously they're not making any color. So now when I launch my really awesome user mode animations, as you can see, you can do some really cool effects on top of your stuff, and that's only one potential use. Let's go over a couple other potential uses. You could, let's say you have a live looping setup that you don't want to have to launch clips for, and you're using Ableton's live looper. You could map some controls to that. You could map some controls to momentary things. There's so many different things you could do with user mode, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you this graphic where these are all the different user mode mappings that you could use, all the different note numbers and note names that you could use to map to different places. So let's go ahead and get into some mapping as well. I already mapped these little macro effects that I have on my master chain to the user mode. But let's go ahead. What I'd like to do is to be in user mode, and I don't want to look at the screen because that's the whole point of using the Ableton Push. I want to map it so that I can change these user mode animations one by one. And so what I'm gonna do is I can also, just so you know, user mode doesn't just take over the grid, it takes over the entire interface. So I can use these top buttons right here to map to different animations. So I'll click MIDI, and I'll just click each one of these, and I'm just mapping on down the line. And I'll just keep going along the top just to do it. And now, as you can see, when I launch something, it turns green, and when it's playing, it turns red. So now I can switch between my user mode animations just by clicking these different buttons. All right, so I've done this and I've created these animations, and I also made them a downloadable pack for everybody in the hopes that you'll grab these and you'll start using push mode animations. I should say though that if you're MIDI mapping the classic way, like what I have going on here, where let's just launch maybe this one. You can see the red turn on and off for whether I have an effect on or off. If I have another animation, however, playing, sometimes I can turn on the effects, but once a light goes past it, to see how it's still on but the red turned off, that's because the push user mode took over that button, and I have to hit it again to turn it off. So that's why it's a good idea, if you're going to do this classic mapping, to not have any animations go over top of the area that you're working with. Okay? See what I'm saying? So, I've made all these available for download, just in a little pack. And all you have to do is just take the little MIDI file and drag it into Ableton Live as a clip. In the next section of this video, I'm going to talk about how you can make your own custom animations. And that's the really exciting thing, because maybe we could get a little exchange going where you make animations, I make animations, and we just have a big library of animations that everybody can download and stuff. All right, so let's do that. If you look inside of this clip, I'm going to make this nice and large so we can see. This is what a push animation looks like. So I'm going to launch this first one, and we're just going to follow along, and we're going to watch the clock. Now, you might think, wow, this is incredibly complicated in order to get the functionality that I'm looking for, or the animation that I'm looking for. Well, it really actually isn't that complicated. Also, if you want to get these animations to show up on your push, you're going to have to make sure that you send the output of the MIDI track that has the clips in them to the user port. So what you do is I'm just going to do this from scratch so you can do it. Make a new MIDI track, okay? The MIDI output, it doesn't matter what the MIDI input is, you can make it no input or whatever. The MIDI output goes to whichever push you have, push 1 or push 2. You want to go to the user port. MIDI output to user port, okay? It's that simple. And then you just, if these tracks are on your desktop, for example, you just click on one of them. You just click and drag and let go. And most likely your clip will be armed to loop. And now I'll just stop this track. When I play this track, because my MIDI is going to push 2, I've got my little robot animation, which I just realized is kind of imperfect. Okay, so really you just click and drag and drop these MIDI clips into Ableton Live and make sure that your MIDI is being sent to push 2, and boom, you should be able to have your animations show up. All right, so let's get into how we create these. I'm going to put these clips back where they go. Now, what you can also do is take MIDI from the user port as well. So in this track, I'm not only getting MIDI to go to a MIDI track, I'm also sending it from here. So now, when I click in different places, as you can see, I'm getting different MIDI things to show up. Now, because I have something mapped in the MIDI channels, I have to actually unmap these in order to work on this. So I'm going to get rid of those mappings from the grid. You'll remember earlier that I showed you a mapping map of all the different notes that are on the grid mode. Okay? I showed you that. And that's really useful when it comes to making your own animations. But so the way that I have been doing these animations, and it's pretty simple, is I'll make sure a beat is playing or the click track is playing, and I will actually physically play in time the clips that I want to see appear in my user mode. So, oops, I got to turn off my effects here. So So maybe I want an animation to do this. It'll maybe go diagonal. Right? If that's what I want to do, then I simply record that action into the clip. So here we go. All right. So as you can see, I've just laid some notes across here. And instead of having to refer to my grid map, I can just look at what I've done right here and I can just play it and watch. Okay, so I want to add to that. It's just as simple as playing the clip and making sure that the automation switch is on. So whatever I do records over the clip. So I'm going to go from the other side. All right, so now I've got this cool little crossy thing going on. All right. And then the next one I'm going to do is I might just go up the side here and down the side the other way. Now I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so now I've got this animation going on, but you'll notice that it's not perfect. It's all jumbled up and garbly-gook, and the notes aren't being held out all the way. And I also don't have any custom colors. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get these clip lights to light up the whole. What do we got? 16th note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of them. And here's a little nifty trick. If you hold Shift and click left or right, you actually can make Ableton react to the clips in a really cool way by making the clips exactly snapping to your grid at the exact length that you want them to. But before we even get into that, let's go ahead and quantize these notes so that they land where we want them to. So I'm going to go to Quantize Settings. And at this point, it's on 8th notes, which actually is what I want. So when I click OK, notice that everything is now snapped to the bar that I want them to. Now, when I hold Shift and I click over, whoops, didn't want to move the bracket. Make sure you have all your clips selected first, so they're all in black. Okay, hold Shift, click all the way to the left so that they're the smallest size you can get them, and then start clicking to the right. Boom. Now watch the animation. Awesome. You're like, okay, Anthony, that's fine and good, but how do I change the colors? Well, let's go in here and let's say that I want the downbeat to be a certain color. So what I can do is I can actually take that velocity down here. That's how both the push 1 and push 2 determine their clip colors. And again, the push 1 and push 2 are going to have a different color profile depending upon where your velocity is set. But I'm going to click this and I'm going to move it. And I'll put it around here and see what color I got. All right, so that was white. So I can see, if you see, there's a very tiny little number that appears when I hover over this. See it moving? At 47, I have kind of a whitish color, which I kind of like, whitish blue. So I'm going to make every downbeat 47. Unless you have this like pulled up a little bit, it's really hard to get the actual note that you, or the number that you want. You also want, if you want all the clips to do that, make sure you select them all. Or, I'm sorry, not all the clips, but if you want all the notes to be that color, select them all by clicking and dragging. So I'm going to pull this down to 47. And then here's another downbeat. Pull this down to 47. And maybe the final downbeat, I'll do the same thing. Okay. So there's 47. So now when I play the clip, pretty sweet. All right, so then these middle colors, I kind of want them to be a different color. So I'm going to pick another arbitrary area. Pink. Let's pull it down just a little bit. Orange. All right, so let's say I like the color orange for the first one. Now the second group, I'll select all of them, pick another area. Cool lime green. Now this next one, I'll pull that to a different area. Blue, and then this final one, I'll pull that to another area. I'm going to get a different, deeper color. Let's see what we got. Yeah, that's a better pink. Okay, so now I've created an entirely new animation. It's that simple. So if you want to then be able to share this MIDI clip, because that's basically all you're doing. You're creating a MIDI clip. If you were to actually listen to what this sounds like, it'd just be a bunch of garbly notes. But if you just right-click on the clip itself and go to Export MIDI clip, you can name it. I'll just call this Diagonal. Put it on my desktop. And now I have a new MIDI clip made. Right-click on it. Okay. So now I have a new MIDI clip made, and this is how you do this, all right? Depending upon what kind of control you have going on, different MIDI animations are going to be more suited to your workflow. At this point, as you can see, my animations aren't hitting these 4 controls on either side, so maybe this would be a cool way to put 4 controls in this area for this specific song or this specific clip, okay? So the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I like to do in my Earthcry set, and this has really been an extremely fun experiment using the push animation and not worrying about actually where the animations are. Okay, so what I've done here, actually don't even worry about what you're looking at. I'm going to break this set down at some other point. This is my Earthcry live set, but I've made a drum loop, and I wanted to show you how I use the user mode to control one of my favorite plugins called Stutter Edit by Isotope. So I'm going to play this and show you what I have going on. So you might be wondering what's going on. Well, what I've done here is I'm actually sending, this is kind of complicated, but it's really, really awesome. So this is my user mode section, okay? And what I'm doing is I'm sending the Ableton Push 2 user port notes to 2 different places. The first place that I'm sending it, let's say, well, I should say the second place that I'm sending it to is the Ableton Push user mode animation thing like we did before. So I send the MIDI to channel 1 and it's going to the push user port. So when I launch one of these clips, you can see this is here's my animation, right? But in the other track, what I have going on right here is I'm sending the MIDI notes to this really awesome plugin called Stutter Edit by Isotope. And the way that Stutter Edit works is you simply just send it MIDI notes and it will actually play. Let's take a look at Stutter Edit real quick. Depending upon what button you push, it will actually launch different really cool stutters and beat quantized effects and stuff like that. So I'll just leave it open. So why is Stutter Edit cool to use with the Ableton Push user mode? I mean, the main reason is that it doesn't matter where your finger lies. It's not going to change anything because it's a momentary device. If my finger is down, it will launch the effect. If my finger is up, the effect gets muted. So I can just navigate through any number of, in fact, I mean, you could fill this entire thing up with different MIDI notes, and each one of these MIDI notes correlates to a different Stutter Edit effect. This is kind of a little more advanced, and if you want some help setting this up, I'd love to help you. But one way or another, I think the main thing about this whole really awesome user mode animation thing is that you can make a customizable show depending upon what song you're in, if you want to launch a clip along with the song that you're in, depending upon what control interface you want to build for yourself. Using push mode animations can really, really give the crowd a sense of what's going on with your controller, as well as a sense of just entertainment. It's really, really awesome to watch a beat synced animation happen along with your beats. All right, so I'm going to post again I'm going to go ahead and post the animations in a file that you can download, and you can click and put them in your set if you want to. If you want to make some other ones and share them in the comments, that'd be amazing. I'd love to see a bunch of new animations happen and people be able to share them. And if I get enough animations, I'll go ahead and put together a really cool, comprehensive web page where you can download them all, maybe even see like examples of them and stuff. If this exists, I haven't seen it yet. If it does exist, if there's people sharing animations already, I'd love to see where that is, and maybe you could link that too in the comments. But yeah, one way or another, enjoy using these animations, and I hope that they serve you really well. Awesome. Thanks.